And I like it because Richard wouldn't have been able to be here otherwise. And, you know, Mark and Christopher may not have driven all the way down 8 hours for Christopher and an hour for Mark. So, you know, it just makes it really nice and convenient. We can all stay in our little cubby holes. So that being said, I take the glasses off since I don't need them now. So if everyone just takes a moment to connect to their heart space and feel all the textures of their heart and feel the expansiveness of your heart. And in that great expanse, connect with spirit, with source. And just feel yourself receptive to what source has for you at this time. And I give thanks to spirit and all spirit guides who are here. I give thanks to the love and the pure light and ask for the protection of the golden light. As my words are guided. Oof. That only that wisdom or information for these beings' highest good be brought forth, that it be brought forth clearly and easily. We ask for the truth in its pure and its highest form. Anything not in harmony with this, anything that would disrupt this, we ask be drawn into the light to be transformed by the light. So they say a divine evening it is. And a divine evening because divine beings are meeting together in heart space, in this Zoom space, and in realms one may not even be aware of. And what we mean by this is that we are you're all multi-dimensional beings, and you may be meeting in multiple ways. And here is the physical realm, and here is how you are choosing to meet at this time. And a grand time this is. Truly, that which is being unfolded now is amazing. And the way each of you have shown up, and so many beings have shown up at this time, which could be seen as great challenge. And for some, you know, many on the planet, it is great challenge. We do not negate this. But there's a force of energy that is pure, that is purifying, that is clear, that is clarifying, that is true, that is, which is purging that which is untrue from the planet. It is literally being rooted up within each individual, which even within each of the cells of your body, your being, and within the planetary systems that have been set up, and we would say, you know, kind of what appears to be ruling the planet. The multitude of systems in place that have been dominating or strongly influencing the planet. And we speak of political, religious, cultural views, which often have judgments of this dualism of better or lesser than. We're the good guys, they're the bad guys, we're the rich guys, they're the poor guys, we're this clever person, they're the other. All this sense of dualism that comes through cultural training. So this is being interrupted and disrupted and rooted out. so that true healing and true knowing and truth can come forth. So what we would say is the lie is being revealed for what it is, and the truth is being revealed for what it is. And the true beingness of each of you is coming out more and more. And in this coming out of more and more, you know, your personal coming out party, that which has been structured or, you know, culturally or conditioned within you must be reconciled. So any old hurts, pains, concepts, judgments, assessments of yourself, assessments of other, assessments of the world. Is it safe? Is it welcoming? How do I fit in? You know, all those belief systems are up for review. Why? Because if it's not true, or there's more truth to be added to it so that a deeper understanding can come forth, this is what is necessary. If one truly wants peace on earth or peace within. Because that which is in conflict within oneself and the outer world must be reconciled, must be addressed. So when we say, you know, this is a grand day and this is a grand era that we are walking into, so to say, it's because there is more light consciousness, more light beings, more angelic beings or non-physical beings, whatever, however you want to label those beings, working collaboratively together to do this deep work, to manifest this result. That all beings can be free of suffering and the root of suffering. And all beings can experience peace and have peace restored within and without. And one might say, well, you know, that's interesting, but have you watched the news lately? Because one doesn't have to look far in themselves with some conflicting or confusing thoughts or disruptions within oneself. One doesn't have to look far in their neighborhoods or within the news or their country or the world to see. There's a lot of things that are out of balance. And it seems almost like there's more and more coming out of balance than into balance. And what we say is that it is because you see yourself in the process, you haven't seen the end game. We know the end game. You just see the surgical prep going on. You just see, you know, the cutting open. It's like, oh, there's cancer over here. In fact, there's cancer even massetizing over here too. This is the revelation time where that which is out of balance is being more magnetized so that it can be addressed. It's being more magnetized within you so it can be addressed within you. And hopefully, many of you are seeing more of the result of once that layer kind of removes, a deeper layer of peace, clarity comes forth. And then maybe another wave of deep clearing or healing comes through, and then another deep layer of peace and clarity. Until there's enough removed so that one can be in a more stabilized, so then it kind of goes quicker and quicker. It's like, you know, it doesn't take you days or weeks to move through something. It can take minutes or even seconds. or as Buddha says, it even can liberate upon arising. That any neurotic or thoughts that are not pure can be liberated upon arising. And this group of beings that have gathered tonight on their computers have each of you done enough work that you're more the place of liberating upon arising than needing the years of therapy or the years of doing the mantras so that you can just keep cleaning out the old and the old. This is the refinement time for many of you. And we say, congratulations, a lot of work each of you have committed to not only come into a pure, stabilized peacefulness within yourself, and then addressing and refining and defining what needs to be cleared out within oneself, so that one can be in harmony and at peace just within oneself. And then bringing that forth to the world in whatever way your creative ideas choose to. And know this, that even Dharmata Tara and Richard were speaking as he was in Nebraska, traveling back from the East Coast, and just his presence, without meeting anyone, without talking to anyone, just his presence driving through the country, staying a night in Nebraska or wherever he said, just that itself has effect. So yes, it's great that you have your projects and you want to do things and you want to impact good and you want to, be of benefit. But we say that just your presence of being embodied in as a pure soul with pure thoughts is abundant enough. Like, congratulations that you have restored your dignity and divinity to that place. Because one can see there's countless of people who don't even know or can begin to know what we're speaking of. Even those who are attempting don't understand it outside of being conceptual versus actual. And yet, you all as first wavers, understand what that means. And then you get to imprint that in the planetary system, in the frequency of which all beings on this planet are feeling. So know this: if there was one thing to take away from this evening, it is know how much you are loved, appreciated, seen, and heard, and supported. Unconditionally loved. And each tear cried has been recorded. And there's not like a little angel going, okay, well, Jessica shed 20 tears, 20 down for her. Richard, 2, he's still getting in touch with his emotion, whatever. It's not that kind of recording, meaning there's an imprint of knowing how distinctly your soul is experienced in all that is, which is source. And none of us are ignored or negated. You may have been ignored and negated in your life, in your family, or whatever. It is not with source. So if you open your consciousness to all that is, there's unlimited blessing. There's unlimited grace and wisdom and love available at all times. And we know that you know this, and we're asking that you know this deeper and deeper and deeper till you are that knowingness. Doubt is been reconciled. Fear has been reconciled. Truth has been reconciled. And you're living beings of truth that are fearless because you are in the oneness with Source, in physical form. Each of you are the Buddha, are the Christ, are the saint, and the sages. You are just coming more into the fullness of that and shedding that which forgot. And that is a beautiful thing. And that is true for all beings. Some are just a little more advanced in their transition. Some, beings are in a bit of a coma. Some are awake, but they're groggy. Some are awake, but they don't have the full understanding, or they haven't fully had that truth resurrected within themselves. Each of you have shown up here with the knowingness that is true and moving more and more, every moment towards that full embodiment, full awakening. And we would say, believe this for yourself in this lifetime, sooner than later. And why? Because if you don't believe it, that disbelief works against you. And if it's just, oh, well, I wish and I hope and someday, the wishes and hopes don't arrive you there. Trust does. Connecting with your knowingness does. Putting your faith in Source and the oneness of Source and the love of Source, and that you are Source. I mean, you are part of Source. And that union continues to expand itself. So I don't think we've said anything that you do not know. But this is just our reminder. And please open your hearts, your minds, and every cell of your body, your being, to receive Spirit's love. The healing, the love, the compassion, the wisdom, you name it, the graces, it is available to you. Be available to that, to it, to Source. And the tears will be more and more tears of joy. And it does not mean some of the tears, the healing tears are beautiful tears. And compassionate tears are beautiful tears. And we would like to celebrate with you the tears of joy, of arriving into that place where your whole being isn't working to getting anywhere because you have arrived. So wherever you go, as they say, there you are. The ambitions can drop, because when you're in that flow of Source, everything you do is is in its grand perfection. In fact, everything you do anyway is in the grand perfection. One just doesn't assess them in that. Even the little wobbles and the struggles and the, it is part of this grand perfection. That, in its process. So we've shared what we want to share. And if there are any things that you would like to discuss, we are happy to discuss.
Can we speak about planetary alignment and how that is affecting us now?
Well, there are powerful planetary alignments, powerful. And what we'd also like to say is there are powerful alignments that are not even in your little solar system. And they all line up to be of benefit. So there's some close ones, one says, well, Mercury this and Saturn that, and the moon is doing this, and there's a double blue moon. And yes, those are all influencers. But the general energy of each of them is to bring harmony and to be the disruptor, right? In some way, they both need to happen. That which can be disrupted needs to be disrupted so that harmony can be in its place. Harmony is fine. Nothing needs to disrupt harmony. That's good. It's that which isn't in harmony. So some of these planetary systems are sitting there, rooting things up. And then others kind of come in and they softly say, oh, there you go, wipe away the tears and here's some like sweet energy. And then there's other planetary systems that are, it's like if you could draw a line, there's kind of this spiraling energy of this pure golden light and platinum light that has been coming to this planet for some time now. And it kind of moves through the universe and bounces, in some way bounces off the planets and finally comes into this little solar system and then these close planets and then hits Earth and then goes out through Earth there's a continuation of it. It's like those torus wheels, as you some of you may know about. I don't know if you had more specific questions about planetary alignments, but that's what we had to say. Do you have any other questions about that?
Not specifically, no. Thank you for that.
Did we answer your question to satisfaction?
You did, yes.
That's the kind of wisdom and understanding we would like for you to consider. Sometimes we think, my life and what's going on, and here's lunch and my kids and this and my work. And, we kind of get in a little bit of a spiral just in our little world. And then, but then there's this bigger thing and the politics and what's going on in Russia. And we kind of keep it, on the, in our vicinity, and then there's a sun up there and there's a moon and isn't it pretty? And then there's a few planets. Source is beyond all of it. Science hasn't even seen how big the universe, multiverse, is and is and is and is and is. Just it stops the mind because it cannot even begin to fathom how massive this universe is. That's how much you are loved. That's how big the energy of being of assistance is coming to you. And all that infinite energy swirling out there, these frequencies are being of benefit here. Because if there's oneness here, it doesn't even limit itself to the planet, right? And it doesn't even limit itself to our solar system, right? It doesn't even to the universe or it's beyond mental perceptions. It can be experienced, and the mind can sit in wonder and awe of it, but it's a little beyond the mind's, the intellect's capacity to go, oh, that. That being said, it would be great to bring your awareness more there, and then place your problems, your individual problems, out in that big space and in that big love and that big knowingness. The problems can get pretty tiny, and the answers that are available to you can be brought to assist you in moving through those, whatever issues one's still grappling with, if that makes sense. So it is available to you, request it, open to it. It will make life a much more easier, because it's not just self-reliant of what I can do about it and my few friends can do about it, and this, how much money I can do about it. It's what the universe can do to move through me and do about it. Big shift. A big shift in perception. And I think one would worry less knowing that. It's like, oh, it's like you have a good friend, it's like, my friends got my back. Well, how about the being that breathes out universes in its breath has got your back? That would make you rest well at night, I would think. That would ease your mind a bit if you truly trusted that and believed in that and acknowledged that and embraced that and opened to that and received that. So thank you for your question. Are there any other questions or things to discuss?
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm curious about fate and deja vu and prophetic dreams, and how they all interplay with free will and in our lives.
Great question. So fate and deja vu and prophetic dreams, we would like to answer, in some way they have similarity, but in some way they're different. So are things fated, or is there free will? Or is it seen that there's free will that went in this way, and so there was kind of a fate around it? You all are divine expansive beings. That is that source. The amount of wisdom and consciousness that got squeezed into tiny little bodies on this tiny little planet is big and too tiny. So that wisdom, your higher consciousness, you could say, still speaks through your dreams and your deja vus, and also kind of in their the divine knowingness knows what direction you chose to take before you even took form. So when it's fated, it's not that there's not free will, there's just this knowing that I signed up for this, even though this consciousness mind, the one that got squeezed into a tiny body, maybe didn't remember it. So prophetic dreams is a way to have your higher consciousness, kind of like, remember this, remember that. Sometimes deja vus is, they can say it's like a mix of the brain going from right to left, but it basically it's allowing that timelessness to come in and go, yes, I've been here before, or I know that person before, or we've done this before, and I'm in alignment, and I'm right on this, I'm right on time. And free will is your divine birthright. And even though in this realm, we're just speaking of the earth realm, there have been people whose will's been abused. You know, there have been people been taken without their will, taken, put places. They've been physically abused. You know, no one goes running towards, you know, being beaten or raped. And yet, in a divine consciousness, not that we would choose this for you, not that we like, yay, this person's going to get beat up in a fight and really hurt and have their leg broken. But in divine consciousness, the consciousness knows, because I'm really not the body and I'm not that personality and I'm an infinite eternal being, that if that's what this needed to play out, and ultimately I was going to learn something, and ultimately down the road, I awaken out of this kind of illusional play of time, then in some way, that's okay. It's not that it was preferred necessarily, but it's okay. And it's like, and I will endure that. I will, you know, sign up for that, because I ultimately know what's going to be the future. I ultimately know what the end game is. And what we would say to each of you is that your intuition, your connection to spirit, your connection to all knowingness, all wisdom, is going to be more and more fine-tuned. So there are times that, you know, each of you is like, you know, oh, I shouldn't have that cookie. I shouldn't have that cookie. I shouldn't. Oh, I'm going to go get that cookie. And you kind of feel like you're acting against what maybe your wisdom would say, you know, and now it's the 10th cookie and you feel a little sick. There's that free will to do that and to learn and go, okay, and that's what sickness feels like. Ultimately, you will align to such thing that, you know, the driving need for cookie isn't necessary. And so this consciousness is more in line with higher consciousness, all consciousness, and it's humming together. So you know where to be at the right time, you know when to rest and how long to rest, what to eat, who to call, who not to call, when to move yourself, even if you don't even know what's coming. There's just, you're in alignment. And each of you, I'm sure, have experienced what it's like to be in that kind of synchronistic flow. And you know what it's like to be out of that sync. So these, you know, dreams and premonitions and such, you know, are coming through to reconnect you, and it'll be connect, and then connected. And very little or slight disconnects, and then back to connected. So these are like, in some way, they're like little whisperings of your consciousness or source, you know, either letting you know you're on the spot, or giving you wisdoms for the unfolding future. Does this make sense to you?
Yes, very cool. Thank you.
And is that a benefit?
Yes.
Did we answer the question, or is there anything else about the question?
At the moment, the question's been answered.
Okay, excellent. Any other things that would like to be discussed tonight? one of the things we would like to discuss a bit more is how to really embody the body. In some way, the experience of being in form has been so challenging at times that, you know, people want to disembody or check out or space out or zone out or drug out or, you know, whatever, all the different little escape patterns. And even though you are not these bodies, these are temporal, while you're in it, be in it. You know, let your feet understand what feet are and that they can energetically go into the deep into the earth and gather from earth energies. And that, you know, you can gather, you know, it's like in some way you're an antenna to spirit and to source and to all that is, and you can be gathering that way. And each of your organs have very precious gifts and ways that it has this body working magnificently, and that each one of those cells and each one of those organs and the blood is a beautiful gift. And how to love and enjoy this body. And not judge it, because that's a self-criticism. Love it. Love the aging. Love the, you know, even sometimes awkwardness. Love the shortness. Love the tallness. Love the imperfections. And allow the energies that move through this body. You are frequencies. Allow that energy to support you and to receive the support from source, from earth, from each other. That itself will bring more peace into the being. When you're really relaxed and accepting and appreciative of this body we're given, even with its aches and pains. So anything else anyone would like to discuss? So is the silence from everyone
Well,
feeling content?
hi,
What's that?
I said hi. I have a question.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, I just never saw your channel before. You know, I've known you all these awesome years. Thank you. When you speak, you say we. I wanted to know we who?
Thank you for that. The we is the all eternal we. So even though, you know, so here there might be a Richard and a Roth and a Dharmata and a Jessica, there's a we here. And one could even say, you know, if the non-physical beings, there's all the beings who've taken physical form, who's now non-physical form. So there's, you know, those beings. And then there's the angelic realms and such, those who've never taken form, there's all those beings. And then that list just keeps going on and on to the expansive, to the all that is. And there's no defining of an us, a them, or an I, or a me. So because we do not see ourselves as an I or a me, we say we.
Thanks for the clarity. I constantly get this we love you from my guides, and I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, that gave me some clarity of what you were saying. Thank you. And you had mentioned in some of the questions about the Intergalactic Confederation. Are you aware of that confederation? And I just have a question concerning a group that I've been working with for many, many years.
So yes, very aware of the Galactic Federation. You know, there's those. So this is a tiny, tiny, tiny little planet. It'd be like an infinitesimal, like little flea on a tiny little piece of sand. You know, that's how big this planet is, right? And this is, you know, a universe, but now they know there's multiverses, right? So there are galaxies and galaxies and galaxies, right? So the Galactic Council are beings in all kinds of realms that come and be in a benefit and counsel. You know, they bring their wisdom, their assistance to this planetary's evolution. Then the Federation is like, then there's a council, and then there's like even a bigger group. You know, there's multiple councils. So then that overall councils, you know, one could say is a federation. But this is just for human terms. They don't go around with their business card and saying, I'm from the Galactic Council of da planet, right?
Right.
Because they're telepathic. They don't need to
Yeah.
have names. They don't need to have, you know, signatures. To them, it's not Mars, it's not Earth. That's what beings who need to use words versus telepathy are able to distinct one from the other. They don't need that. These words and these descriptions are only for mankind. I mean, not only for mankind, but it's for mankind to be able to identify. You know, that's Richard, that's Jessica, that's Roth, that's Morgan, that's Dharmata. Those are the definitions. Without words, we could just look, it's like, so when we say there are ultimate beings assisting the planet, and it even goes beyond to there's not even the, you know, it all dissolves just into pure consciousness light, which is the ultimate, then all those terminologies go away.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Does that make sense to everybody? Is this a concept that's, you know, it's a little bit, you know, different thinking, but is that make sense?
Just wanted to share a phrase with you if it brings any current or stirs anything up. In this moment, I had gotten something from a group that I had met last night in my sleep, and it said about the new morning.
Well, can we share about what our thoughts are about the new morning?
Yeah, that's why I went, because this is a new experience talking to you. So I thought maybe that message was to be brought out now. So that's why I say that.
So, you know, this can tie into an earlier question about planetary stuff, is that there is, you know, they talk about the age of Aquarius, you know, ending one age, you know, and in some way, you know, there's cycles, and there's a new dawn and a, you know, new morning and a new awakening and a new consciousness. And it's not that it's new because it's never been, it's new in this realm. It's new in the embodiment of this realm, in this way that it's showing up now. So, you know, many people through this COVID thing have talked about reset, you know, and whatever the new norm is going to be, that's their versions of it. And they may be very confused about their version of it. We have our own version of it. And that's part of the reset, being this disruption of the lie and bringing forth the truth, the pure truth, the unnegotiated truth. So it's meaning that it's not a half truth. It's not something that, you want, when one understands, it's questioned because it's just in knowingness. And this new morning is, we are, these, as a new dawn, there's those first rays of light as the sun comes up, and one can see those first rays of light. In some way, the way man's consciousness is receiving now, it's seeing those first rays of light. And again, as the first wavers, which we would call you guys all, you're the early birds that got to see the sunset of the sunrise. There are some that don't, sleep till noon, or again in the coma, they may not see that. But several of you, and Chris, we would say even this about you, and several of you listening now, you were even the dawn breakers, meaning that you were even up before the sun was arising, looking at the horizon, so that the first sparks of these light, this first sparks of this consciousness, you were ready to receive, you were ready to witness. And if we were to give since, you guys are in structure and time and all that, if we were to give you a time frame, this new morning, it's about 6 o'clock. 6, even 6:30, where those, you start seeing maybe some of the colors in the sky, you start seeing the glow. You haven't seen the sun yet, but you start seeing the colors and the glow in the sky. But it's the whisper that morning has arrived. As that continues, once it hits, like, so to say, high noon, most people are up by then. Not everybody's an early riser. And also not everyone's kind of a dawn breaker where they're waiting for dawn to break from that darkness, from night to light. And that is why it will become easier and easier and easier and easier. Why? Because you won't be the blind leading the blind anymore. It'll be like, the beautiful sunset comes, here's the light. Okay, now I can see, now I can see more. Now I feel the warmth. Now the activity, it's like, for the mornings, like there's a little bit of a grogginess, by high noon, you're feeling energized. Mostly people are feeling energized, and you're moving through your day and the activity's back. And so we also congratulate you all that you've made it through, what some people call the dark night of the soul. It's like, the awakening has begun. And not for everyone, as we've said, and not that eventually not everyone, but, not everybody's a dawn breaker or the early riser. And some beings are injured at such strong places, like even at noon, they're still in their coma, the tubes in them and that type of thing. They're just the people that need more care. But they're no less loved or considered. They just need more care. They've just been more injured, so to say. Whether they did it to themselves, it was done to them. It's just where Their kind of spiritual developmental has got them to this point. You know, you are the warriors and warrioresses that have, you know, diligently held the ground to secure this time that we are seeing now. Worked tirelessly, lifetime after lifetime, to be here, where we get to see this daybreak, this morning arise. And any of the naysayers are saying nay because that comes from their experience and they're confused. We'll call it fake news. They just haven't gotten to the 9 o'clock news yet. Again, pure truth is unarguable. And that which is confused or that which has been bought into as lie, not only is arguable, but will be revealed and without blame or shame, and just like, oops, didn't get it then, I get it now. And then they can move into their transformation, their inspiration, their healing, their awakening. So is there any other things that anyone would like to discuss that hasn't had a moment to ask at this time?
I'm not sure why this question is coming up, but the question that has arisen for me a couple of times is, what is depression?
Good question. Of course, we're going to give it a broader answer, and it's not going to be a clinical, psychological answer. So here's your beautiful, abundant, glorious spirit. And as we said, it had to kind of squeeze itself into a small little body on a small little planet, and then, you know, fit in to whatever family and neighborhood and society one was in. In some way, that kind of compressed one's knowingness, one's truth, one's understanding into, you know, infantile thinking, so to say. Depression is when one is not in touch with their divine illuminating self. And they've suppressed even that they're not, you know, that they're loving, but maybe that they're not even lovable or worthy. So it's not just being so squeezed into the body, into a small being, into a small concept of oneself. They've even squeezed it and contracted it further into, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving. And they feel even more disconnected from source. It can look like, well, daddy didn't love me, or my girlfriend left me, or I don't have the finances, da 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 da. But there are people whose girlfriends leave them, don't have the finances, you know, someone just died, and they're not depressed. You know, or, you know, they can have sadness, but it's not also crippled with the I'm unlovable, I'm unworthy, I'm not deserving. And even taking it further into, and I'm guilty for not being, because I'm so rejected, and I'm ashamed. So all those are very like the lowest frequency energies and thought patterns. And when those are bought into, it's not joyous. It's the opposite of joy, depression. We will say that there's this brain and there's these organs, and that there are times chemical unbalances, or hormonal, imbalances, or a dementia, from aging, because and then, a sweet person who was nice their whole life, and dementia, all of a sudden they're mean. Or, somebody who felt good about themselves, all of a sudden, so there are these things, but this is also rooted in this kind of a spiritual discord that hasn't been worked out within the system being the being being in harmony with the body. Because when things are harmonizing, joy. When things are harmonizing, even when challenging things happen, it might not be so fun, but you're still in alignment with trust and truth and source. So it's just another, a deeper disconnect. And now deeper disconnect is connecting to those lower frequencies we spoke of: guilt, shame, self-hatred, unworth. And the deepest separation from source, which, as was spoken earlier, source loves, accepts, and there's no condition to the love. You don't have to be a good boy or bad boy. You don't have to, be, red coat, black coat, won the lottery, be a poor, but, be the nicest person, be the meanest person. It's just unconditioned. It's just whether or not you let the love in. You align to the lovingness. The love is going to continue to emit. Was this helpful?
Yes, definitely. That's quite what I was seeking to understand without even knowing why I was asking it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions or things to discuss?
Do we have time to talk about Atlantis?
Absolutely. What is your interest with Atlantis?
I have more of a curiosity, I guess, about the group of people. Seems like there's a thread of commonality of meetups in Atlantis. So what does that signify today?
Thank you for being the spokesperson for that.
You're welcome.
So Atlantis was an intergalactic Earth station. And those intergalactic or angelic or whatever beings you want to, what wordology you want to put on it, in the knowingness of time, because this time is, starts here, ends there, in eternity, no start, no end. There was the seeing that, Earth was going to go through its wobble, its growing spurts, so to say. So there were beings that incarnated to assist before Earth got way too wobbly, and also to put things in place for that. the wobble. And then for even this time, this is what was discussed with you the other day, you know, things were brought into the timeline, placed in the future so that they could be brought forth. And they've been brought forth at different timelines, but there's a lot being brought forth now. So the Atlanteans, which we could call the first responders to the cry of Earth, going, you know, we may forget ourselves and do some really raunchy things to ourselves and others, and you know, help. It was the response to that kind of cry of consciousness, kind of turning, separating out and turning against itself, and then because against itself, against each other or other. You know, our tribe, your tribe. So why there's so many collecting, you know, people reconvening, so to say, is because more is being, there's more deployed now because of bringing this new morning, this new age, this, you know, this awakening forth. There's also kind of trustworthy friendships that were built. So I know I've got your back, you know I've got your back. And also you may have worked on similar teams back then. And so when you kind of incarnate, it's almost like divine mission, like, okay, and then in 1995, I'll meet you on a plane and we'll go to Teo and, you know, and that's how that will come about. And over here, and I'm going to meet you at this place, and, you know, and there'll be like little sparks of remembrance, like, oh, I kind of like you. And then all of a sudden this other picture unfolds. So it's almost like, you know, parts of the A team coming back together. And this isn't the only group. There are groups around the planet who are doing the same thing, because there are light beings all over the planet holding down their energetic frequency field so that planet Earth can awaken and restore itself and come back into the light and the loving and to full consciousness. This just happens to be the team that just like, okay, we'll all meet up on this area and these dates, and here we are now. And then here we actually are now. And we're reminding each other, we're assisting each other, and we're mirroring to each other, and we are alchemically, energetically supporting each other. And there were certain trainings then that are being rehabited or remembered now. And this is not the only time they've been reconnecting. You know, sometimes some of you reconnected in Egypt and played that thing out, and then maybe took a break here and there, and then some of you met up in China, and a few of you were there. And I mean, you know, it's almost like you've just had different assignments and deployment, but always the same theme and intention. How to be of benefit to a planet that is confused and has forgotten itself largely. And where there's distorted energies or influences that has even maintained this confusion. You know, some people call it a slave planet, but what are they enslaved to? Confusion, the darkness that's not revealing the truth and the light. And we do not stand in judgment of that. We are, as well as, you beings are in compassion that there have been so many people suffering. So Atlantis was a place where they said, let's assist. And as we said, then, that energy even got into inner circles. And then it was like, okay, it's not even so to be safe for us to be here. So then there was the underground, some of the galactics went back to where they were. And then some of the, we'll say strong ones or daring ones, stayed incarnating on the planet to maintain the consciousness throughout time, throughout the ages that have been seen. So it didn't go into full wobble. And in some way, it could be like, the spy behind enemy lines, if you want to go into those kind of stories. But beings who kept incarnating to keep implanting truth, keep implanting, well-being, to keep, the breath of spirit alive as much as could be, so to say. Did this answer your question, or do you have any more specific question about this?
It's good for now. I don't have any other specifics.
Montessori,
Oh,
Yes.
to expand, you've touched upon the question I'll ask a number of ways. We realize that in our country right now, half the people believe one thing and half the people believe something different.
Yes.
And it's hard for me to say that I'm all right and they're all wrong.
Right.
And so the question is,
Correct.
how does one go forward to achieve some of these guiding points that you've talked about so far? So if you expand on it.
Well, great question. Remember how earlier we said it's rooting up the lie? And what is the lie? Is separation. And dualism. And what are one of the aspects of dualism? There's us and them. There's the right ones, there's the wrong ones. And and it's okay, like you can have disagreements, like, oh, I prefer banana, I prefer peach, no problem. But it's when I prefer this, you should not like bananas. No bananas for you. It's when they're trying to, there's a power struggle around it. And so what's being rooted up is that the strength of that confusion, that it's not okay to be different or have a different opinion. Or seeing the other as separate and not another aspect of yourself as divinity in another body being. So how to work with that is not buy into it. Starting with not buying into it within yourself. I'm sure you've seen how you even assessed yourself. We're taught to assess ourselves. We're taught that was good, Johnny. That was bad, Johnny. Do it more like this. Do it more like that. And there's punishment and rewards accordingly. And so we take it over in our own minds. I didn't do well today. I ate those 10 cookies. I did better today. I exercised. And we're constantly assessing the good and bad, good and bad of ourselves. Then it takes us and we look out and it's very clear. Well, I do it this way. Are you doing it that way? Or they're doing it that way. I don't know how to do it that way. You can assess up and down. The judgments can go both ways. They're better than me, or I'm better than them. They're lesser than me, or I'm lesser than them. All dualism versus I celebrate their difference and I celebrate my difference. I celebrate that and I celebrate this. And they've got unique strengths and I got unique strengths. And I'm working on these things and they're working on those things. And it's just kind of more of a accepting appreciation than a judging negation. So what they're doing is they're battling it out in the battlegrounds. And there's so much wordology around that. I will fight to the end. He won, they lost. It's in the programming here. what you want to call that matrix programming. It's divisive, divided, split. Not one, but two. And the assessment that comes with it. So, spiritual lesson 101. Love thyself as you love your neighbor. Love here, love there. Love thyself, the source. If you're connected with source, all that is, if you're loving out and inward, peace on earth. If I'm disconnected from source, I'm so ashamed. And some of the religions teach so much shame and guilt, which is part of this lie. And you're treated from a very young child, even if both your parents loved and adored you from the moment you were born, never judged you. First 5 years, you are the beautiful, angelic being of divinity. You get to your school, they're immediately saying, why'd you wear that? You're short, you're tall, you're this. It is just a world plagued with judgment and assessment. And everybody's looking to be loved and accepted. And being taught about, gods in the sky that will, damn you to hell if you're not a good boy. And there's it's just around, in so many circles of concepts. I have more money than you. I have better breasts than you. I have thinner legs than you. You've got nicer hair than me. That assessment is driving everybody bonkers. It's a great ad, commercialism. People, they can continue to sell things because of it. Because once I get the toys or the right hair or the right this, or the right size of the breast or the right boyfriend, I'll be okay. We say you're okay. In fact, we say you're beyond okay. This is the forgetfulness. This is the lie. So diminish or abolish that lie within yourself, first and foremost. Love everything, top, bottom, and everything in between. And all the imperfections, all the wacky imperfections of being human. And then with that same love, again, 101, love other, neighbor, friend. They're struggling too to remember the truth of oneness, that they are loved beyond their ability to even understand what love means. And when they say love God, it's not way out there, although it's way out there, but it's way in here. So same. And see that union, that gap of separation come closer and closer and closer until it is just oneness. And the rest of the world can be in total confusion, total dualism, total separate, still fighting it out. You got the oneness going. You got the peace. That's what Buddha accomplished. That's what Christ accomplished. That's what saints and sages have accomplished. That's their, the prototype of what we're going to see on the planet grow, grow, and grow and grow. And each of you are moving more into that beautiful space of loving kindness, acceptance. If you're accepting someone, you're not judging them. They didn't have to meet your standard or expectation. You're accepting. Like a little baby, they're crawling. You don't expect them to get in a car and drive off and make it to San Francisco. There's not the ability. You accept them where they are. They wobble before they learn to walk, and they fall down a lot. They accept them where they are. You don't expect a child to become a marathon runner. We do not carry the expectation around beings. We accept you where you are. We just would like to have you experience less suffering and more peace and love. Because it is a good wish. Because it's compassionate to, hearing the cries of humanity saying, this hurts. Yes, separation hurts. So I don't know if we answered the question. But this is our answer. Are there any other questions or things to discuss?
I have a question about karma.
Mm.
Is karma necessary? And is there a way to respond to life without creating karma?
Well, it's not necessary, but it is, those kind of laws of attraction and laws of, action and reaction and that type of thing. And one doesn't have to keep creating it. And we'd like to interject in there. There is grace. There is the Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. There is the, here's your jail card free. You don't get, even though you don't, quote unquote, deserve it, we still love you and we would bring you forth. So there are, it's not that every action has to have a reaction where grace can't come in and say, something, well, we're going to alleviate that. However, if we alleviate that, like let's just say you stole something. And so the punishment is here's a fine or here's jail time, right? And we go, this was a first time offense. So we're gonna let you off on that. You were hungry, you need an apple, you took it, we get it. Go and sin no more. Go and steal no more. But if you didn't get it, and then you go off and do it again, and again, and again, at one point you have to learn, and sometimes beings learn to learn the hard way. And then they do jail time, they sit there, they think about it, when I get out, maybe I shouldn't do that anymore. But as you know, a lot of people get out of jail and they do it again, because their soul's not learning. And it's not learning because they're just that confused and that wounded. They're just that much separated out from themselves and source, which is the same. So it can be avoided by not continuing to create these circumstances, because there's also good karma. It's like, that was good karma. I got the parking spot. So karma is neutral. It's just a response of action, reaction. So one can just continue to have, plant the seeds of, good karma. And also one can also just call for grace. But there is a wisdom piece here, because again, if the grace only has you continue to do it again and again, and maybe even worse, instead of taking one apple, I got away with it one time, now I'm going to take 2 apples, or, I think you get the idea. Then at one point, that's not wisdom to allow then it's not, the grace is not being a benefit. And in some way, the being needs to learn, the consequences of their action or actions. And then even on top of that, so there's karma, reaction, reaction, and then there's grace. There's also those beings that step in, you know, and this could go back to the Jesus stories of, you know, I'll step in and take that person's, you know, what would have been their karma. And some beings that are very pure souls come into very confused families or hardship experiences because they know they're so pure and so strong that they can incarnate into that family and shift it for all the generations. Like anybody else who would come in, you know, would have been killed or become a killer. But they could come in and bring consciousness. So then there's even those beings who take on the karma, so to say, of other people because of compassion. And they're able to shift or bring forth something that the other beings would not have been able to do on their own. And have even endured whatever pain and hardship with that intent. With remembrance or not even remembering, you know, this is what some beings have chosen. Does this make sense? Did this answer your question, or do you have further question around this?
It does make sense, and it does answer my question. I don't know how to formulate this question. It still has to do with karma, and I guess I want to understand is who or what or how is it decided that the action that is made by a person, whether that is negative or positive or neutral karma?
Who's the deciding factor?
Yeah, who or what is the deciding factor? So like if someone's starving and they stole an apple and they ate the apple and it, you know, it fed them or fed their baby, and they stole it from a wealthy person who didn't even notice or didn't need the apple. Like I'm just trying to figure out who or what decides that was negative karma. Like,
well, so here's the thing is, there is a source is all knowing, all wise, all omniscient, and all loving, right? So source in that pure consciousness is able to weigh out what was really in their heart. Was it just because they were just trying to survive and keep them and their baby alive? Or was it like, oh, I don't want to work that hard today, I'm just going to take it from this person. You know, they have enough apples, look how rich they are, and they justify it. So source knows the purity or the impurity, so to speak, of the heart, the intention of the heart. There's that in play. There's also just the kind of the law of, I water my plant, it grows. I ignore my plant, it dies. I slap my children, they don't like me so much. I love my children, they love me. It's lovable. We exchange. So there is enough of just this kind of action, reaction, action, reaction. That's just kind of in the natural order of this realm. And there are interventions, as we've said. And in the end, whatever the end is, the end of this timeline, source that has all wisdom, all compassion, all loving kindness, and all knowingness, when they say, you leave here and you go before your maker, so to say, we all kind of go back to that. And there's no like fudging because of knowing the pureness or the intentions of the heart. And there's not the judgment that became that way. They also know that it was a lifetime of being beaten or this and that, and all of a sudden they became more and more contracted. So always met with the purest of compassion and the purest of loving kindness. But there's also the place of wisdom. If this being continues in this route, once I got away with it one time, I'm going to get away the second time. Then they don't even want to work. All they're going to become is a full-time thief. because nothing has stopped that direction. So sometimes the karma just helps stop that direction, reroute it, we would say. Was that helpful, or do you still have a question around this?
No, that was very cool. Thank you.
So any questions or things to discuss from those who have not yet had an opportunity to join their voice in the choir? Now then we have a question for you. And it's not a pop quiz. How is what we've said tonight going to impact you to a place of deeper loving kindness and a deeper shift to move you to a full awakening? And it doesn't have to be answered out loud. It can be answered in your hearts and minds. What can you do with whatever information that's been brought forth, whether it's considered wisdom or not? It's just information. Can be applied so that you bring more loving kindness to yourself, you bring more loving kindness to other, and you see that that loving kindness is a continual source, a continual unbroken line to source. And what can you do that if you ever forget that you are lovable, that you are love, and that you are loved? And that if you are, then all beings are in their version of awakening, their developmental stage, so to say. Because they might just be in an infantile stage of development spiritually. And you may just be a little further along the way, or a lot further along the way in some cases. So write this on your hearts and in your mind and on your mirror if you need to, that you are loved and you are love. And we recognize how challenging it has been at times to be in human form on a planet that is so ruled by the divisiveness and the confusion. So even more so the need to be loved, see yourself as love, and hold that part of yourself that has to have that experienced all that challenge, and know that it is being disrupted. That challenge is being disrupted, and it is necessary so that peace can come into its place. So any last questions?
Thank you very much for your being with us tonight and offering these insights and messages.
I'm so very grateful for the yeses that each of you respond to with. Before we close off, is there anybody who did not have an opportunity or take the moment to ask anything? Is there anything else or anything, any remnant of lingering? Then for this we give thanks.
Gratitude.
Yay. Whew. So I see my friend Connie didn't join.
She may, I think she did for a little while,
Oh, she did?
and there was
Oh, great.
there was an iPhone connection at one point with somebody.